Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the LNS First Year Pathways webinar. We're excited to share more with you about pathways and look forward to your questions and a conversation later in the hour. My name is Nathan Sayre. I am a professor in the Geography Department and faculty director of the LNS Pathways program. And I am going to show a handful of slides, and then we'll hear from Riddhi Kumar, who is a former Pathways student, and she will help us. She will share some of her experiences with you, and then we will open it up for Q&A. Q&A will take place in the Q&A function of Zoom. Please put your questions there, and you are welcome to start posing those questions at any time. That's the program. And again, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen now. LNS First Year Pathways is a program that started 2 years ago. It is now growing. We are expanding it significantly. The past 2 years, there were only about a half a dozen clusters, and this coming fall, there will be 20, 21 clusters. I'll tell you more about those clusters in a moment. I hope I can. LNS Pathways is a program designed for LNS first year students. Like I said, it was launched in fall of 23. There are over 20 unique clusters for fall of 25. Each cluster includes 3 or 4 courses, adding up to between 11 and 13 credit hours. Clusters are designed to fulfill a number of purposes, to help you fulfill your LNS breadth requirements, or to help you get started in a major that you're interested in. What a cluster is a group of courses and a group of students. The students are enrolled in the courses as a group, as a cohort, so that you have the same students in all 3 of the courses, or 4 courses in some cases, for your first semester. With one exception, the clusters are only the fall semester. And this experience we have found, and in fact, other schools have also found, is very helpful for incoming freshmen as a way of getting your feet on the ground, finding your stride, you might say, at a great big school like Berkeley. So what are the benefits of LNS Pathways? First, it helps you find friends with similar interests more quickly, because the other students in your cohort, you have a lot of time with them, you have the multiple courses with them. They have also chosen the cohort or the cluster that you have chosen. And that small group of students provides support, so provides opportunities to study together, work on projects together, get to know each other in an academic, intellectual fashion, as well as a social fashion. It creates a little community within this gigantic university where you can begin to get a feel for how Berkeley works, what Berkeley expects of students, and how you can succeed. The cohorts consist of 17 to 30 students, depending on the courses in the cluster. In larger lecture courses, your cohort has the dedicated discussion section or lab section. Some other courses are small seminar courses where you are the students for the course. One of the benefits of enrolling in Pathways is that you get early enrollment. You know ahead of time what courses you will take, and that you will get seats in those courses. Um, we ask you to express your interest and your choice of clusters, and then before phase 1 enrollment opens in the summer, we enroll you in those courses. So you don't need to worry about not getting into the courses that you've selected. You don't need to worry about having backup schedules in the event that you can't find a seat in classes that you would like. The courses, as I mentioned, fulfill LNS breadth requirements. Some of the clusters include reading and composition and allow you to fulfill that requirement. Many of the clusters are designed to help you get started on specific majors. It therefore gives you a head start, a leg up in getting started on your degree right away in your first semester. So what are the clusters? There are three kind of major categories or types of cluster for the fall. One type is clusters that help you get started on a major. What you see here on the screen are three of those clusters. There are many more that you can find information about. We'll give you the link to the website at the end. So Exploring the Sciences is a cluster that includes Math 10A, it includes Chem 1A and 1AL, and it includes neuroscience. If you're interested in majoring in neuroscience or molecular and cell biology or public health, these are courses that give you a good start in that direction, into those majors. Futures in Healthcare, which includes sociology, math, and ethnic studies in the fall. This is the cluster that actually runs 2 semesters. So there's the fall semester and also spring. You sign up for both as part of a package of courses that are designed for students interested in medicine, public health, careers in health. Sociology, Math 10A, Ethnic Studies, Chem 1A and 1AL in the spring semester, Math 10B, and a writing course in spring. The third one shown here, breaking into the behavioral sciences, includes psychology, sociology, and writing. Another group of clusters are clusters with R&C courses, the reading and composition courses that are required of students in LNS. Three of them shown here, but again, there are more. I think there's a total of 8 clusters with reading and composition. So evaluating and presenting evidence has a class from rhetoric, a class from sociology, and a writing seminar. Life and physical sciences is chemistry, environmental economics, and writing. Nature of mind is East Asian languages and cultures, neuroscience, and writing. If you have questions about placement, we can accommodate any student who places into the R4B or the R4A level of writing. There are lots of details there, but we can maybe take that up in Q&A. The advantages here are, I think, numerous. Your writing is a requirement, and the sooner you take care of that requirement, the better prepared you are for other courses. Writing is going to be a big part of your education, pretty much no matter what you study. No matter what your major is, improving your skills in reading and composition will help you succeed in other classes in the future. There's also lots of opportunities for students interested in writing. There is a new student journal where you can publish your writing. This is just it's an advantage, and it's actually sometimes hard to get into reading and composition courses. So again, this is an opportunity to get in and get started. R4B includes research components as well, and opportunities to submit your research projects for competitions and awards. R&C students are often the winners of undergraduate research awards from the library, actually. There are finally clusters built around themes. For example, water is a theme for one of the clusters shown here, democracy, letters and numbers. These courses fulfill multiple breadth requirements. They allow you to look at a topic from several different disciplinary directions. This is a great way to take advantage of the incredible breadth of departments and disciplines and scholars in LNS, in the College of LNS. How do you choose the right cluster? Obviously, the cluster you choose should reflect your interests, um, academic interests, uh, broader interests such as an interest in water or democracy. The website has detailed descriptions of each of the clusters. If you see here the website address and then the web page for clusters, that will allow you then to open up a page for each of the different clusters and read in detail. Another way to do it, if you click through, there are drop-down menus that get you to clusters, and then a drop-down menu within that will allow you to choose the cluster's keyword search page. Shown here, you see a piece of it. It allows you to type in a word that could be a subject, a topic, a class, and it will automatically give you the list of courses that are in the clusters, right? You see here on the left are three courses, and in that middle column with the hyperlinks are the clusters that course is found in. This allows you to quickly locate the cluster or clusters that are of most interest to you. Students who have taken clusters in the first 2 years have reported a number of advantages to participating. We'll hear from Riddhi momentarily. We have early evidence that it helps students perform better in the semester after they've been in Pathways. These are some of the things that you will benefits of being in Pathways. It's a good place to go if you hope to build connections right away in your first year with fellow students and the faculty who teach the courses. If you're curious about a particular major, obviously the clusters of that kind can help you. If you're concerned about choosing classes, because there are 6,000 classes at Berkeley, it can be difficult to decide. It also, as you know, can be difficult to get into them. So Pathways helps you sort those questions out and get into courses that you want. Or if you're simply unsure how to get started on your academic journey at Berkeley, the pathways have been designed to really make the most of your first semester and get you started, get you launched in your experience at Berkeley. So how do you get enrolled? How do you get into Pathways? We will open the enrollment form. It's a Google form, and it will be linked to our website, and it will open on Thursday at 5:30 in the evening Pacific time. It is a first come, first served enrollment process. We will keep lists of the students who are interested in each of the clusters, and after by June 27th, we will begin to register students, and we'll be able to tell you on June 30th if you have been enrolled, put on a wait list, or if your cluster is full and well, in that case, presumably, you will be on a wait list. So here are the key dates again. Thursday, June 12th, the sign-up form opens at 5:30 p.m. The deadline to sign up is June 27th. And on June 30th, you will find out the results of your placement in a cluster. If you have questions, please feel free to email at lspathways@berkeley.edu. You also are encouraged to visit the website. You can get to that from the QR code shown here. Please read the FAQs, the frequently asked questions page on the website to get the details about each cluster and how it works. Okay, I'm going to leave that QR code up for just another moment. And I want to introduce Riddhi Kumar. Like I said, Riddy is a student who was a former Pathways student, and she has been kind enough to take some time to offer to answer your questions and to offer her perspective on her participation in Pathways. Riddy, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
Could you please simply start by simply sharing some information about your who you are and your background and interests?
Yeah, of course. My name is Riddhi Nandakumar, and I'm a rising sophomore at Cal. Um, I'm an intended MCB major, but after taking some classes this semester, I've discovered that I am really interested in public health, so I'm looking into either majoring or minoring in that as well, maybe, but I'm not completely sure just yet. Um, So I was a part of the Pathway program last summer. So this program is relatively new. It's only been conducted for the past 2 years. I was in it the last year, the year before. And I was in the year-long cohort, and it is currently called the Future of Healthcare, I believe. When I was in it, it was called Pre-Med, Race, Immigration, and Public Health. And some of the classes I took included chemistry, general chemistry. I took a calculus and a stats class, math 10A and 10B. Um, ethnic studies. So it was a lot of different classes that I took in these 2 semesters, and I had a really good time in my cluster. If I was to say something about how it helped me, I guess it would be that like the pathway program really streamlined my enrollment process. Um, and it really helped me find people around me who were in the same classes as me. We all had the same classes together, so we became each other's support systems, study buddies, like just friends. And it was really great to form these connections with like-minded people, but also people coming from very different backgrounds. And apart from that, it was just like a really good combination of classes that I might have not taken otherwise, and I think it really led me to discovering what I wanted to do as well. So it was a really good experience overall, and I would definitely recommend that to a lot of you. Um, and I guess I didn't say anything about where I was from, but I'm from the East Bay, and I'm at home currently. And I hope you're all having a good summer as well, at your houses.
Riddy, can you tell us in a few words the you mentioned immigration was one of the
Right.
topics in the cluster.
hmm
Can you just give students a sense of how immigration connects to health?
Right. So the class that we discussed that in, and sometimes like your cohorts are smaller, the professors are aware of the pathway program and they're able to facilitate discussions that are geared towards the students and their interests, but sometimes some of the classes I was in were larger. And I'm kind of deterring from the question, but what I'm trying to say is that like my chemistry class, math class, I was one among hundreds of students. So I had these discussions where I was with my same 25 people and we were able to talk about the program itself and the big core ideas. But that wasn't always the case with all my classes. But in my ethnic studies class, it was only about 18 of us in that class, actually, because this was second semester. Um, and we it was on pandemics and writing history, and it was about public health policies and how pandemics were handled throughout the year and how that affected health, continues to affect health today and the way we approach immigration, race, like a lot of other things actually. And it was very interesting. Definitely not a class again I would have taken my first year at Cal if I wasn't a part of the program, just because I wouldn't have known about it or thought to take an ethnic studies course. But immigration was connected to like we talked about the Chinese Exclusion Act and immigrants from like coming from the Mexican border into LA and how that affected housing, how that affected public health policy, um, and then pandemics and other things. So it was definitely an interesting class.
Wonderful, wonderful. Um, one more question, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A from the participants. Um,
Mm.
what have you found most surprising in your first year at Berkeley?
This is a really great question. I was definitely very surprised by the people that I met at Berkeley. Just based on where I'm from, I'd heard a lot about how Berkeley was very competitive, sometimes cutthroat. But my experience was very different from that. And I think you kind of end up attracting the kind of person, the people who are similar to who you are as a person. Um, and I got to meet a lot of great people who were really motivated, really helpful, and I felt like we were all in it together and we were all collaborating and helping each other out. I was inspired by my peers as well as my professors and my GSIs, and it was just a really motivating, uplifting experience overall. It's not that I didn't expect it, but I'd also heard a lot of negative things about how scary it is at Cal and how sometimes maybe people are out to get you, but that's not true at all. If you're not that kind of a person or looking to be in those competitive, fast-paced environments, you definitely don't encounter people like that. It's just so diverse.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, all right, we are going to open it up now. There are already some questions in the Q&A. Please, if you have a question, uh, put it in the Q&A. We will either address it directly, sort of live here, um, and you should feel free to pose questions to Riddhi as well as myself. There are also some folks who support the program who are going to type answers to specific questions if they can in the time available. So the first question I see is concerns the writing courses. It says, when do we know or how do we find out what credits our past AP tests and courses cover? What prerequisite classes we gained credit for? Um, my understanding is that AP tests are that you will get your scores from the College Board typically in the second week of July. Um, there's details in the RNC website about AP scores and their relationship to the writing requirements. Basically, if you get a 4 or a 5, that will place you out of one or two of the courses in the sequence. Um, because you will find out in the second week of July, that will give you time to then uh, choose or report those scores to us. The writing program actually keeps track of those scores, and we can thereby make sure that you get placed into the level of writing that you need. Um, as for other AP scores, I don't have specific knowledge of those, but I'm assuming that they also come back at about that time. And those are questions you can discuss in detail with your advisor as either beforehand as part of Golden Bear advising, or once you have sort of started putting your schedule together. What are the components? The components of a cluster, if I'm understanding this question, are 3 courses with the same students in all 3 courses, either the discussion section for a lecture or the entire course in a seminar. I should add here, actually, another feature of Pathways is field trips and other kinds of course enrichment opportunities. Pathways provides funding to support instructors who wish to take their class on a field trip, uh, uh, go out for a meal together, uh, invest in the supplies needed for special projects. Um, Reedy, have you got anything you can share with us about did Kathy?
I think the person who submitted that question also amended what they were going to say. They said, what are the components
Oh,
of the application? Um,
oh, thank you. I don't see the amendment, but do you? Do you want to answer that question? I
Trying
should
to
walk through it. The
recall.
process is a
It
little
was
bit.
very quick actually, and I think the year I learned about the program through the webinar also, and I did not attend the meetings in person. And that year I think they gave us a little sneak peek of the Google form. It's just a very quick Google form. You just type in your name, your ID, I believe, just to rank your clusters. It was very straightforward, and I think it had a quick question about why you're interested, maybe if my memory serves me right. But I mean, it's just a first come, first serve basis, and you get to rank not just one cluster, but you can pick a couple of different options, and then you're placed into the right course just based on availability and how responses are coming in.
Yes, thank you for clarifying the question for me. It is simply a process of filling out a Google form. It will ask you some basic information. It will if you are interested in a reading and composition cluster with a reading and composition class, there's more information about that. There is a cluster that has foreign languages, either Spanish or Chinese. There's information in the form about placement in those courses as well. Um, then you submit the form, and that's all you need to do to apply to the program.
Nathan, I'm going to jump in and curate some of the questions. I think you may not be seeing all the ones that we've been selecting in the Q&A box. And so I'm just going to ask the questions out loud to the two of you to have you answer them live.
Great.
So the first question has to do with mentorship by older students or more advanced students. So the question is, are there structured opportunities for mentorship or engagement with upperclassmen within the cohort?
I think that's a really good question, and I think I could speak to that. It's definitely something I think we're trying to build. So me and a group of it was organized by my upperclassmen who had taken the pathway program a year before me. And it was a few students who had come together to make the alumni association, and we're trying to get it to become a club. And we hope to have these mentorship opportunities and be there to talk about our experiences, what we do outside of the clusters, what organizations we're a part of, and things like that. But it's currently in the works, but it's definitely something that we want to have available for the students who are in the pathway.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm also seeing a handful of questions that has to do with how doing pathways will affect your degree progress. So one question is, would being in a pathway allow you to graduate sooner? Another question asks, does it affect doing the pathways? Would that affect your ability to do a double major later or to switch majors potentially? Nathan, maybe you can chime in on this one.
Yeah, I think the clusters in specific, well, it will help you get started on your breadth requirements. Those are requirements you have to fulfill. All students in LNS have to fulfill. In that sense, it's not getting you further ahead than other students might be, but it's getting you started in a good way right off the bat in your first semester. Um, every major is different in terms of how they structure prerequisites and requirements. Some majors have a list of classes typically outside of their own department that you need to have taken before you can even try to declare the major. Other departments don't have that many prereqs, or maybe they have no prereqs of that sort, but then they have lower division courses that you need to take to complete the major. In the first 2 years, typically you don't actually declare your major until at least sophomore year. So what you will have done in the Pathways program is help tick off some of those boxes that either will help you graduate in general in the college because they fulfill breadth requirements, or they're prereqs for a major and will help you make your progress in that direction, or they might be lower division requirements for a major, and you will take them in the cluster, and that will put you in a better position to get going on your major when you do declare it, which, like I say, is typically sophomore year rather than freshman year. Will it help you graduate in fewer than 8 semesters? Not necessarily. I don't think that's an advantage you can expect from pathways. Uh, the clusters add up to 11, 12, or 13 credit hours. You have to be enrolled in 13 credits to be a full-time student. Um, Pathways will help you get those 3 courses, 4 courses in your first semester, but the number of credits you will earn is going to be basically the same as it would be if you signed up for 3 or 4 courses yourself.
Reedy, did you want to chime in on this question or should we move on?
Um, I might just say it really depends on what cluster you take and what major you are. I mean, again, it was what was already said. And the thing is, I think there are 2 different ways you could go about it. If you're taking a cluster that's pre-professional and you're intentional about like it does help your like the class, it helps you get into the classes that you need to get into for your major anyways. Like some classes that I took, like chemistry and math, are really hard to get into as a freshman just right off the bat. So it saved me time because I was enrolled in these classes that some people are waitlisted for, and because of that, they have to wait for another semester. And so going about enrollment normally might just take extra time. If I don't know if I said that correctly, like if I worded that really well, but sometimes you could be taking a cluster for exploration and maybe you're trying something completely new, and that might end up adding work, like extra load to your schedule and put you behind. So it really depends on how you select the cluster and what intention you have for being in the pathway program.
I might add one
Yeah,
more
go
thing
ahead.
quickly. There is a cluster that's designed for students who are interested in majoring in economics. But there's no economics course in the cluster, and that may seem odd. But we went and talked with the advisors and the department chair in economics, and they told us they don't want students to take economics courses in their first semester. They want students to take math and sort of make sure that they've got the math skills that they'll need for the economics major. So even though there's no econ course in the cluster, it will in fact help you get started in the direction of an economics major if that's your interest.
Okay, great. So I have hopefully a simple question for you, Nathan. The question has to do with what do we mean by prerequisites? And you just touched on this in your previous answer. So on our website, where you can look at all the classes that are part of each cluster, some of the classes are labeled as prerequisites for anthropology, econ, etc. And I think there's some confusion about what we mean by prerequisite. So can you clarify what that means? Does it mean that that class has prerequisites that you need to fulfill before you can enroll in it, or does it mean something different?
No, it does not mean that. It means that the course is a course that students need to have taken in order to be able to declare a given major. Um, so this is a great example. Again, some departments do it differently, but the idea is that if you are interested in a major and you want to declare that major, again, you will declare later. In the meantime, you need to fulfill the prerequisite courses that that major requires. Um, and they may be courses that they're not part of the major requirements, but they are prerequisite. You have to have taken them in order to get into the major and pursue the courses that are required.
Great, thank you. I have a question here that's directed to Reedy. Would you say you ended up taking more classes through the program than you would have without it? I'm wondering if this being the program is more time consuming. I'm an aspiring MCB major and also looking to be part of a dance team and a few clubs.
I was reading that question as well, and um, I wouldn't say that it made me take more classes than I would have normally. Um, it's just that and I think another question just before asks if the clusters are restrictive, and the thing is, the classes, all of the classes that I took somehow contribute to my major or to just an LNS breadth requirement. So my ethnic studies was my historical studies breadth, and the sociology was my social sciences breadth. So just somewhere along my 4 years, I would have taken a class for those breadths anyways. But you could consider it restrictive maybe if if you were looking to take just an easier class to get that done, or maybe do it through community college, or take a different class to satisfy some breadth. But if you're interested in the cluster and the topic and you've looked it through, and you would like to take the class, then that should be a reason why you do it. So it really depends on whether, I mean, I don't know if I took more classes, and I think it was definitely stuff that I wouldn't have taken otherwise, just because I wouldn't have thought to take ethnic studies or something. So, it could end up being a positive. Maybe you wouldn't like it so much. So it's just it's up in the air. It's up to the person. And being a part of clubs, I actually did not sign up for any clubs like my first year at college, because I just wanted to focus on classes and I was meeting people in other ways, but a dance team could be time consuming. There are people in my cluster who are in dance teams and still in the classes fine. So it's definitely manageable, but it comes down to you as a person and how you spend your time and how you manage your time.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to move us along because we still have a lot of questions that are open, and I'm noticing the time. I see a cluster of questions that more or less are asking, like, who is the right person to do pathways, and who maybe shouldn't do pathways. So one category that's been brought up is a student athlete. Is a student athlete a good candidate? Another one is like, what if I know what I want to major in? Should I do a cluster that's not related to my major? There are some questions that are like more broad, like why wouldn't a student take a cluster? And another version of this question is like, and specifically the question is, are there any disadvantages to taking a cluster instead of the usual process of selecting classes as a first year student? I think this question could be answered by both of you.
What do you think, Rita? You want to take the pieces that you're
Yes, I'm
comfortable
trying to break
answering?
this apart in my head. Are student athletes good candidates? It really depends. You should take the cluster. Again, I kind of mentioned it. There are two different ways you can go about it. If you know what you want to do and the clusters offers you the classes that you want to take anyways, and it'll enroll you in those classes really easily. Or if you're interested in exploring something, and the cluster has it, it aligns with your major and your interests, then you should definitely enroll. Or maybe you're just looking to try something completely new and you're fine kind of steering off your usual course and trying something just different for your first semester or first year, then you could also take the course. If the cluster is making you redo subjects that you've already completed, like requirements you've already completed, and you're not allowed to drop them if you're in the cluster, then maybe think again. Or if your major is one that has a lot of requirements and it's very strict and you want to graduate on time, maybe you think twice about taking the cluster. Maybe if you have other commitments outside of these classes that you think will be really time consuming and you're not sure if these selection of classes are good for you, and your time management, then maybe consider not taking the cluster. But those are the disadvantages I think someone asked. I mean, it could be restrictive, but it really just depends on your interests, what cluster you've aligned yourself with, your major. So there are just so many variables, and I can't give a clear-cut answer. It just comes down to the person, I would say.
I,
But there are a lot of advantages, and I think I've mentioned some.
I would add that in the Google form, when you express interest, you get to uh, s- check a box for your first choice cluster, and then also for a second choice as kind of alternative. And there's a question that asks, if you don't get into the first one, are you happy to be in the second one? If you can't get into either one, are you open to other clusters? Um, on the question of being an athlete, I think it's entirely about your schedule. My experience with athletes is that they, because of practices and competitions, their schedules are often much more constrained than other students, and so you simply should look at the schedule for the courses in the cluster and see how well they fit into your available time. Otherwise, I don't think there's any reason not to be part of a cluster, and I think there are a lot of good reasons to be part of a cluster, whether you're an athlete or not.
Great. Thank you. And I should just say, if I haven't quite articulated the question the way that you meant it, please feel free to rephrase and resubmit your question and we can try to get to it. Okay, I'm seeing a few questions here that has to do with a variation of like, what if I change my mind? Or like, what if if I've signed up and I'm enrolled, how easy is it to withdraw? And then another variation of, if the cluster has a class in it that I'm not interested in, or that I've already fulfilled this requirement through other ways, can I, just enroll in part of a cluster? I think, Nathan, you should be a good person to answer this one.
Yeah. The courses in the cluster, I saw another question actually, are they in the course catalog? And in most cases, the courses in the clusters are not visible in the registration system because we are protecting those seats for the students who sign up in the cluster. Um, the okay, now I need to get back to that first question. I apologize. I lost my train of thought.
Okay, the question is, if someone signs up
Yes,
for
okay.
pathways and they change their mind.
So the courses in the clusters also have, to drop them individually, you need consent from the department that they are in. However, if you decide you want to drop one course, that's not allowed as part of the Pathways program. The whole point of the program is that you're with a cohort and you take these courses together. So dropping a single course is not possible. If, on the other hand, you decide that you simply don't want to be in a cluster at all, it simply requires that you send an email to us and we will remove you from all of the courses that you're in. As for taking only some of the courses, that's not how the program's designed. We ask students in the clusters to take all of the courses in the cluster. Uh, the placement obviously is an issue for things like reading and composition. If you have already tested out of both R4A and R4B, which means you might have a 5 on an AP score, for example, probably you should find a different cluster rather than taking the cluster that's got writing in it.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question that has to do with breadth requirements. So I'll just read it as it's written. And Nathan, I think you might be the best person to answer this one. Are there clusters that tackle a different breadth requirement for each of the courses in the cluster? And are there only 3 courses in a cluster?
Yes and yes. If you go to the website and look at the page for each cluster, it will, and there's a table that describes the courses, and one column of that table is the breadth requirements that each class fulfills. And that some clusters have been designed specifically so that those 3 courses each fulfill a different breadth requirement. Some of the other clusters that have been designed to get started with a major, for example, may not actually have 3 separate breadth requirements in the lineup of courses. It simply depends on the cluster, and you can find out more by going to the website.
Great, thank you. Okay, I have a question here that says, if I'm able to switch colleges, the answer is yes. Students can apply to transfer colleges, although that's not guaranteed. So I'm just going to answer that part first. If I am able to switch colleges, would my pathways progress transfer, or would I have to completely restart through my desired major in the different college, i.e., if I wanted to switch from LNS to the College of Computing, Data Science, and Society?
In most cases, it will transfer across without any difficulties. In a different college, the obviously you will enter into that college. It will typically mean that you are choosing a specific major or from a short list of majors offered in that college. However, many majors outside of LNS have either prereqs or requirements that are offered in LNS. So if you take a math class as part of a pathways cluster and transfer into public health or any number of other parts of campus, that math class will fulfill a requirement for that college. Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense, but whoever submitted that question, feel free to submit a new question if it doesn't quite make sense. Reedy, I see you've come off mute. Did you want to chime in on this question or the previous one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They were kind of administrative.
Okay, great. Okay, so I see a question here about entry-level writing requirement. Nathan, I apologize if you already addressed this, but the question reads, if I haven't fulfilled the entry-level writing requirement yet, can I still enroll in a pathway cluster that has a writing class in it?
I believe the answer to that is no. The entry level college writing requirement has to be completed before you take R4A or R4B. It is possible to take the entry level course over the summer if you wish to do it then. But you need to have that fulfilled before you start taking the R4 sequence.
Okay, great. I hope that we've answered your question, Ellie, but if we haven't, please resubmit it. We have a couple questions that have to do with like transcripts, essentially, like AP classes, dual enrollment classes with California community colleges, et cetera. So how does placement work? I think is the general gist of these questions for classes in clusters that may already be fulfilled through these classes taken outside of Berkeley or before the student arrives at Berkeley.
Where we have multiple different placement questions or topics, so that we have Chinese classes in one cluster. The Chinese department has got a process for placing students in the correct level of Chinese. That process will need to be gone through by students who are interested in that cluster. We will help you make sure you take all the steps that are needed. In Spanish, there's a option for a cluster. You can take Spanish instead of Chinese in that cluster. Spanish has its own process. It's actually much easier or simpler. It has fewer steps and mostly requires the student to self-assess at what level they feel that they are in Spanish. Reading and composition. There are placement tests you can take at Berkeley, or you can use your AP scores. Like I said, those AP scores may not come back until after we open the pathways enrollment process, but they will come back before the deadline to express your interest. And we will use those scores to put you in the correct level of reading and composition. Math can also raise questions like this, but the math courses in clusters are all either what used to be called Math 1 is now called Math 51, which is calculus, or Math 10, which is calculus with a focus on sort of oriented for students interested in particular topics, like biology, for example.
We have a question here. Are there research study pathways available? I think I might rephrase this as maybe, are there pathways that involve undergraduate research opportunities? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
Riddy, do you want to speak to that?
Well, so I'm not aware of the 21 other clusters that have the new clusters that have popped off, but or I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know much about the new clusters that have been created this year, but I think if you make a good impression on your professors and they're working on research or you're attending these like office hours or other meetings that they recommend and you find research in that way, then maybe you'll find research opportunities. But I don't know if the clusters themselves um, allow you to do any research. I think it comes down to what sort of a relationship you build with your professor and GSIs and how you seek out those opportunities. It's definitely possible to do that in the clusters. I could say it even makes it easier because of the small group setting and the connections that you can form because of that.
I would add two things there. One is that the enrichment activities that instructors are encouraged and enabled to add to their courses, those often can take a research dimension or a sort of group project dimension that is maybe not, it's not the faculty members' research, it's not like being in a lab necessarily, but it does begin to open up those aspects of a college education. And then secondly, as I mentioned briefly before, um, all the R4B courses in the reading and composition series uh, incorporate research as an explicit focus of the instruction. So you're not only learning how to improve your writing, but you are doing it in part by undertaking research projects, taking advantage of the incredible resources in the Berkeley library system, and learning the skills of research as part of improving your writing.
I see two questions here that I think are asking a version of the same question. So I'll read them aloud. What's the difference between applying for the cluster classes in July versus applying for the cluster through the first year pathways program? I think what this person is asking is, couldn't I just sign up for the classes myself when freshman enrollment opens in July? And then I see another question that says, to clarify, if we become part of Pathways, we wouldn't have to enroll into each course by ourselves, right? Pathways would enroll us to the clusters.
That's right. That's right. And as I mentioned, um, the seats available, the classes that are part of Pathways are not available for normal registration. They have been suppressed from the system to ensure that they are open and available to students who do sign up through Pathways. Um, Obviously, big lecture courses, Pathways students are just a part of the students in those classes. So those courses are available, and you could sign up for them without doing Pathways. But there are courses in Pathways that, including discussion sections, that would not be available to you unless you register through the Pathways program.
Great, thank you. Maybe this is a question for Reedy. Is the grading in Pathways clusters any more demanding than in regular classes?
Um, I don't think so. I don't think so, no. I think it's just I mean it comes down to your GSI and who you're assigned to. Oftentimes it's not even the professor's grading, except I keep bringing up ethnic studies, but it was my one time where I was actually really in a very um small group setting with only the professor, so there was no GSI or mediator involved. But all the other times I was mostly interacting with my GSIs unless I was going to the office hours because all these other classes were really, really large. Um, but yeah, I think it comes down to who your GSI is, and that's just, I think, chance.
Nathan, do you
Yeah,
want to chime in on this one?
the grading for the courses in Pathways should be the same as grading if you take the course outside of Pathways. Um, the special courses that have been sort of set aside, as Rudy said, the instructor, the GSI, the faculty member, uh, it's their responsibility to grade the students. But I don't think there's any reason to think that they will grade you harder because you're in Pathways.
We have just about a minute left. And so maybe we can end on this last question. Do cohorts meet together outside of courses? Is there an advisor assigned to each cohort? I think this question is maybe about advising support, community engagement.
Yeah, we're all really good friends. I think we had like an orientation meeting ahead of time, and that's when we first met. We created a group chat, and honestly, it was just us initiating the conversations. And once you start meeting these people day in and day out in all your classes, you become really, really close friends with them. So in that sense, we definitely all do meet together outside, and I think you'll continue to stay in touch even after the program ends. But apart from that, there's no particular advisor, but you're always free. I mean, you can always feel free to, I think, contact the people here or even the alumni to ask us any questions. So that's always open to the students who are in the program currently.
And there are a handful of basically social events, study parties, pizza parties, receptions, especially at the beginning of the year, to welcome you and build the community across clusters.
I know I said that was going to be the last question, but I actually think these two questions that just came in are really critical to understanding like what Pathways is about. And so one question says, are we a part of a big class or do we have our own separate class with the 20 to 25 students? And then another person asked, Reedy mentioned her classes are large and that's why she wasn't able to interact with professors directly. I thought we got smaller classes.
Right. I think I was very confused by this too. It's very different from high school. The thing is that Berkeley is a really big place with just thousands of students. So it is very difficult to really have those like classroom like interaction with your professors all the time. So the thing is you're still put into, just depending on what class and what cluster you're in, you're put into a larger class sometimes with more people, other people, and the professor is lecturing to you. And later you have these discussions where you kind of dissect what the professor has gone through, and there you're with your 25 people consistently. And then you get to talk about the themes that the clusters have highlighted, and you get to connect that with your other classes, and you stay together with those 25 people in all your different discussions. But sometimes you're in classes where you don't have discussions at all, and it's only direct interaction with those professors, and those truly are really small groups. And you're with your 25 people and your professor. You get to really form a connection with them. So it depends on the class sometimes, but you still do get those small bonds and you get the experience of being in those big classes, which I think is also a nice experience to have at college because it's just something new. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I just to try to be as clear as possible, uh, a lot of courses at Berkeley, and especially a lot of courses in the first 2 years, are very large enrollment classes. So they'll have 100, 200, sometimes 500 or 600 students enrolled in them each semester. The lectures are given by the professors to that entire group of students in a large hall. And you also have a discussion section, typically taught by a PhD student in the discipline. Those are typically not more than 25 students, and that's where you will have a small cohort experience. So you have both. You have the large lecture courses, and you also have the smaller discussion sections.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the time that we have. So I'm going to throw it back to Nathan to close us out.
Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Riddhi, for your time and your insights into the program. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you to all of you for participating in our webinar. I hope that we have been able to answer most of your questions. If you have any further questions or just want to get more information, the first advice I would have is to really study the website, look carefully at the details about each cluster. Be sure to read the FAQs. Berkeley is a big place and a complicated place, and the requirements are you need to really dig into it and study. So please take advantage of the website and do not hesitate to send us an email if you have questions. The email is lnspathways@berkeley.edu, if I remember correctly. It's on the website, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Um, in the meantime, I hope you're enjoying your summer, and congratulations on your decision to come to Berkeley. We are very excited to have you and see you, and we look forward to your participation in Pathways. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening.